Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the GradCracker webinar featuring our good friends at Jacobs. So Jacobs advertises their degree apprenticeships, placements and graduate opportunities on GradCracker. Their graduate positions are now open. So if you are looking for a graduate job, make sure you go and apply to Jacobs today, and they'll be opening their degree apprenticeships and placements in March. So if your degree apprenticeships and placements are something that you're interested in, go and follow Jacobs now, and then you'll be alerted to when they do open those positions. So I'm excited to introduce you to Dan and the grads at Jacobs who all found their jobs through GradCracker. So we've got very exciting stories to tell. Dan, can we just start with you and your role at Jacobs? What do you get up to?
Yeah, I'm Dan. I lead the early careers recruitment team here. So me and my team, we recruit over 400 early careers people every year. So that's split across graduates, apprentices, and our summer intern program. And that's apprentices all the way through from level 3 through to level 7. So anything from, last year we had an apprentice welder in Hull, right the way through to a level 7 MSc town planning in central London and everything in between. So yeah, as a team, we're very busy all year round. We have particular peaks and troughs, but yeah, at the moment it's peak season now as we're transitioning from recruiting graduates into apprentice and summer intern. So yeah, we recruit across all STEAM disciplines and some non-STEAM disciplines. So whatever your background, there's going to be a role for you at Jacobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give you a bit of an idea for the audience's point of view, the types of positions that Dan's got advertised at the moment. I know Dan's just mentioned to me that he's had quite a few meetings this morning, so we will be updating the opportunities on the Jacobs hubs and on the Jacobs hub over the next couple of days. But anything from, for example, from waste management to electrical engineers, transport planning, and building services, just to name a few. So there's definitely something out there for everybody. I'm going to have to mention our surnames. We've got some really strong surnames on the webinar today. So we've got Dan Money, Mr. Money, Carla Power and Jessica Luck. How amazing are those surnames? So we are now going to move on and speak to the grads and just to get to know a little bit more about them, where they went to university and what they studied. So Rebecca, if I can start with you. So where did you go to university and what did you study?
So I went to Loughborough University and I studied civil engineering.
Perfect. And why choose Jacobs?
I like different variety and different kind of projects that you can do. They work in nearly every sector. So for a civil engineer, I can kind of get experience in anything. I don't have to specialize too much. I don't have to work, 10 years in water or in gas. I can jump about a bit and get loads of different kinds of experiences.
Yeah, perfect. And we're going to talk about your projects and experiences a little bit later on. But for now, Sophie, so a similar question to you. Where did you go to university? What did you study? And why choose Jacobs?
So I went to the University of Exeter and I did geography with applied GIS. I chose Jacobs because I really liked their company culture and their emphasis on, sustainability. I thought that was really important as a company, especially in the today's age. You got to prioritize it.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of employers are quite key on sustainability at the moment. So what in particular are Jacobs doing to be sustainable?
Well, they've got this Beyond Zero strategy, which is rolled out across the company. And then everything we do really has an element of sustainability to it. So we're always looking to ways to make our projects more sustainable.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that's just in your conscience all the time, isn't it? To try and make things sustainable as possible. Yeah.
It's a really exciting time, isn't it, for graduates going into industry at the moment, because lots of employers are almost at the forefront of, changing things, thinking of new ways of how to do it. Sustainability, like you say, is at the forefront of lots of employer minds at the moment. So the stuff that you're doing is really exciting, isn't it? I can, from the stories and things we've heard over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure you're doing something good.
Yeah. And it's for now and it's for the future, isn't it? Like Jess just mentioned, we've had nearly on every single webinar, all of the employers are looking to be more sustainable. And you are doing something for the future of the country and the world.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie. Uma, on to you. So similar question to the girls.
Yep. So I studied automation and control engineering, and that was at Newcastle University. And in terms of why Jacobs, I suppose for me, it was more about kind of the client focused nature of many of the roles that Jacobs offers. So obviously Jacobs is like it's mainly a consulting, like a professional technical services consulting focused company. So for me, it was important to have a role where I'd be kind of face to face with clients, and I think that's one of the best things about working at Jacobs.
Is that quite common in everybody's roles though? So just looking back, Sophie and Rebecca, are your roles client facing as well?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. We'll find out a little bit more about your roles later on, and obviously the projects that you've worked on. So I'm going to go now back to you, Dan, if I can. So we've mentioned that Jacobs is an engineering consultancy. You can be involved in projects, and one of the key things for Jacobs is to become a sustainable employer. What else would you like the students to know about Jacobs?
Yeah, look, how long have you got? I could, pay to.
We've got an hour left, so yeah.
There you go. I'll stop me after 58 minutes then. Look, Jacobs get involved in everything, and as glib as that sounds, the strap line is reinventing tomorrow, and a lot of most of all of our projects are focused on that reinventing the tomorrow. A lot of the stuff we're getting involved with is just improving the lives and connectivity of societies and people. So whether it's a major rail scheme, a major city centre development, a nuclear power plant, it's all about improving the infrastructure of the UK and the world around us. So, in answer to the question about sustainability, it's using our forces for good. That if we're involved in these major projects, it's pushing that agenda around, carbon zero and really making these projects more sustainable for the communities in which they happen. In terms of specifics for graduates, I always say it. The old strapline was people are our greatest asset, and they are, as a professional services company. The intellectual horsepower and well-being of our people are what drives Jacobs forward. So that is front and center of everything we do as a business, from a HR perspective, from a line management perspective, from a development of the graduates perspective. It is everything we're trying to do is to increase the well-being of our staff. So, some people say it, Jacobs actually do it and deliver it. The guys, I'm sure, will tell you many anecdotes around what that means to them, and it means something different to everybody. When I first came in, it was very much, 7 years ago, it was all health and safety focused. Don't use your phone whilst you're driving, wear the right shoes when you're mowing the grass, all that stuff. And that's kind of evolved now, where we've got a culture of caring. Each office has several mental health champions. As line managers, we're constantly encouraged to check in with our staff, especially as a lot of us are working remotely now. So it really is in the everyday fabric of what we do. So, it's not just the projects that we do, it's the people that we interact with, both client side and within Jacobs. So, from that perspective, like I said, the guys can talk in a lot more depth because, they're graduates at Jacobs doing it all, every day. But, from a kind of central perspective, from a HR perspective, that's the message we're trying to push forward.
Yeah, I know from just experiences working with you, Dan, as well, there's so many different networking groups that the graduates and anybody can get involved in. So we'll probably speak about those a little bit later on. But yeah, if projects are something that you are interested in and looking what Jacobs have done in the past or are going to do moving forward, then definitely have a look at the Hub on GradCracker, because we do have a projects page on there that you can go and have a look at everything that they've achieved so far. But obviously there's lots more to talk about and lots more to achieve in the future. So Dan, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to top facts. So we've briefly explained who Jacobs is. So can we just go around the room a little bit and just ask you guys about the top facts that you want to tell the students about for Jacobs? So Rebecca, you're first on my list.
So for me, top fact is Jacobs was ranked one of the top 50 employers for women in 2021, which as an engineer is really important, because only recently we started seeing more women getting into engineering. I think it's really important. My team is very equally split between men and women, and it's great to see. There's been times before I've been the only girl on the team, and it's not the best, but my team right now, really well balanced, really well structured. We work really well together. And then on top of that, there's so many different opportunities and groups for women, and also for men and women to get together and talk about different problems within the workplace. There's loads of opportunities, there's trips, there's volunteering opportunities, there's a whole collectively program for volunteering and for donating money as well and fundraising.
Perfect. Are you a volunteer, Rebecca? Do you get involved in that sort of thing?
I do, yeah. I really enjoy it. It's something I used to do at university, and I'm glad I'm able to do it in my workplace now. Because I do enjoy giving back, and it's a great way to meet new people outside of your team or outside of your organisation, maybe who work in a different department or a different stream of the business. And it's a great way just to get to know people outside of the job.
Yeah, it's good networking, the good to be able to network and also giving something back to the community as well. Great top fact. Sophie, what's yours?
So mine is that Jacobs actually has its own podcast called Inflection Points, and they do episodes on really topical subjects with industry experts. This can range from nuclear power to the water supply. The one I listened to before, well, I listened to a few, but the one that I was really interested was the one on smart mobility, because of my role as a transport planner. And yeah, they're really interesting if you want to learn a bit more about what sort of top roles are within Jacobs and what projects they work on. So I would recommend it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sophie, could you give us a bit of an insight there onto what kind of, I want to know the juicy gossip. What's happening? What's the future looking like?
I think there's a lot of stuff to consider for smart mobility in cities and how you can. I know they were considering, those autonomous cars. There's a lot of talk about that, but I think that's quite in the future. So.
Okay. So there's not going to be flying drones, and we're not going to be on
not anytime soon, I don't think. Unfortunately.
To be confirmed, Jess, I think that's what we're saying.
Pending.
Yes. ...
Yeah.
Thanks, Sophie. Uma, what's your fact?
So I'm a bit of a numbers kind of guy. So and I like following the stock market too. So my top fact is that in the past 5 years, the Jacobs share price has more than doubled. And that's for a number of reasons. But one of the big ones is that Jacobs has made a number of high profile acquisitions. Some people might have heard of those. So I think the biggest one is PA Consulting. So kind of moving more into that sort of consulting market. But there's been others such as Wood Nuclear too. And I think it's just great to be able to work for a company that's moving onwards and upwards.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear all those names because they all advertise on GradCracker as well. It's just like, yep, got those ones. Ding, ding, ding. I do. Dan, on to you, your top fact.
Yeah, just building on Rebecca's fact, last year we recruited 52% female in our graduate population. So for the first time, we kind of broke through that 50-50 barrier for recruited actually more female graduates than male. And that's kind of a reflection of where we're trying to change the paradigm of what we do as a business. The Reinventing Tomorrow is about, like Rebecca says, reinventing the kind of workforce in which is tackling these big problems. So traditionally engineering has been very male focused and male driven. Just changing the people solving the problems is going to change the solutions that are provided. So that's a big one for us. And I guess the most fun one is, we do actually have astronauts on our payroll. One of our clients globally is NASA. And, when people say it's not rocket science, well, sometimes it is for Jacobs.
Oh, that was a perfect ending to your top fact. You've said that before, haven't you, Dan? But,
only a few times.
I know. I'm sure it's that.
Anyway. If and ever we lose a NASA thing, I'm scuppered. I'll keep saying it anyway.
We'll think of something else. Yeah. So we mentioned about your opportunities that are going to be opening in March, your degree apprenticeships and your summer placements. So everybody knows about that. The current roles on GradCracker, obviously I've just gone through some of the ideas there, but timeline. So I think we need to just talk to the students about their expectations, your expectations. So what are the timelines looking like? So for example, closing dates, what's the assessment centre process like? Take the floor.
I'll let the guys talk about it because they've actually been through it from the other side. But from our perspective, we're on the second wave now. Grad recruitment, we have this kind of full-on ambition to have it wrapped up the other side of Christmas. It never really happens. We have to go with the second wave, which is we're about to start the second wave. So the roles that we haven't filled. So for us, we want to move quickly because we want to move on to apprentices and interns. So there is no real timeline. We want to move quickly. So if you apply, be prepared to be asked at a moment's notice to come and do a virtual assessment centre, which is the next stage of the process, where we'll use our video technology to ask you to do a 4 or 5 minute self interview where you answer 4 very random questions, different to the ones the guys had last year. We tried to keep it a little bit different. Glassdoor tends to keeps us on our toes with these kind of questions, so I won't say too much. And then we have a gamified assessment with our partners at Arctic Shores, which is kind of fun. So yeah, that's the next stage of the process, and after that, it will be meeting the teams that you'll be looking to join. I guess one thing just to add that I didn't mention earlier, one of the redesigns of our grad program starting in September, October this coming year is going to be more of a focus on an agile career. Again, the guys have been here a few months now. They're probably seeing it firsthand that the push from Jacobs is that we don't want it to be a linear career. We want to give our employees full agility to try new things, try different things, try a bit of this. Do they like it? Do you want to, and just so you don't get typecast and sat in the same corner for the next 20 years. So, from our perspective through the recruitment process, there's a lot of emphasis on asking and probing around that area. Do you want to try different things? What's your aptitude for curiosity? Those kind of things. So, I know you're going to ask about tips later on, but that's kind of one straight off the bat that, one of the big things for us looking for in our grad population is around that ability to adapt, to be intellectually curious and be agile enough to try new things. So yeah.
And how can a student demonstrate that then? So, I could sit here and say to you, oh, Dan, I'm agile, I've got a thirst for knowledge, I want to progress. But how...
Tell us about a time you've demonstrated a thirst for knowledge, Carla.
Speaking to you every week. What have you been up to?
There you go. That's a thirst for not so much knowledge, but more, yeah. Look, but again, that's again what we're looking for when we're going through the process. It's about situational based interviews where we're asking candidates. There'll be a lot of emphasis around questioning, around tell us about a time you've had to adapt to a new situation. Tell us about a time you've had to work outside your comfort zone. Yeah. Those kind of things that. Again, I don't know why you listen to a 40-year-old man talk. You've got actual graduates there, but they're the guys that on a daily basis are dealing with unique situations. Umar's in an office. I can, the other guys are probably working from home. Just that adaptability over the last couple of years that people have had to naturally demonstrate, but also then professionally in the jobs they do, solving problems creatively. All those different things that come at various different levels that really. From me, that's what my team's challenged on is providing the business with graduates that can, the old military phrase, adapt and overcome. That's the kind of grad we're looking for as we go forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. Well, I'm gonna leave the 40-year-old alone now, and let's speak to the grads.
So I don't know why, Rebecca, I keep coming to you first just because you're in my screen. So if you could just tell us a bit about your experiences so far with Jacobs. So you say you started in September. What have you been doing since?
So yeah, I started in the first week of September with the majority of other grads. Not everyone has to start in September. They asked me when I wanted to start, and I said, yep, September time works for me. Gives me a bit of summer after final year, so I can relax for a little bit and then come back. Yep.
Brilliant.
So you can have a bit of a flexible start if you like. So I came in first couple of weeks. It's it's your onboarding, it's doing all your basic training, kind of getting to know the company structure, your team, and slowly building yourself into the team, getting used to kind of the new document system, what kind of requirements there are for different projects and for different stages of each project.
Right.
And just really kind of absorbing as much information as you can. It can be quite overwhelming at the start because there's so many new terms and phrases, but it's brilliant. And everyone I found so far has been so helpful. If you don't know something, there's no such thing as a stupid question. They'd rather you asked and just then you find out rather than going along pretending you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just asking. So it's brilliant. First month, kind of getting to know everything, getting to know everyone on your team. My team was really, really helpful. Since we're all working from home, it's hard to get to know people, and they knew I was starting. They went, you know what, we'll do a couple of days in the office. So it became every Wednesday, let's all meet up in the office, and we'll bring in some cookies and some cakes, and we'll have just a wee sit down and in-person meeting, so you get to put a name to a face.
Yeah.
Which was really, really helpful and really, really welcoming. And then slowly kind of built up my responsibility and my kind of jobs within the team. And I kind of, you know, now I'm someone people can come to and kind of ask questions because I do know a bit more about what's going on. And it's really enjoyable. And I'm sure the guys will have a similar experience where just everything's been really lovely. Everyone's really welcoming. And just day to day for me is different. You know, I walk in one morning and I'm dealing with cost planning, and the next morning I'm walking in and there's a new contractor on site that I have to handle. So every day is different, and it's a really good learning opportunity.
So Rebecca, you mentioned about being on site there. So you partly on site, partly working from home. How does that work?
Yeah, so a bit all over the place. I'm based out of Birmingham office, which is in the city centre of Birmingham, and kind of go in maybe 1-2 days a week if other people are going in. Normally just work from home, but then I also occasionally go out to our client offices. I work with our teams there. A couple of days a month I'm now out on site as well, so supervising some stuff that's going on. Sometimes we like to have meetings at site so we can walk around the site and see what progress is being made by the contractors. And it's a good way to visualize stuff, because sometimes it's quite hard over Teams to see what progress is being made if you're just working off drawings and pictures. It's nice to be able to walk around and see, God, this is really different from the last time I was here a month ago. They're doing really good work. So every day is different. Every week, you know, I can't say, oh, on Monday I'll definitely be here, on Tuesday I'll definitely be here. Every week's different, but I do try and get into the office at least 2 days a week. But working from home does have its benefits, but getting into the office and seeing folks is really good as well.
Yeah, good.
How did you feel when you first went on site, Rebecca? Because obviously when you go to Jacobs, you're around your colleagues and your friends and everything else that you've met before. But going on to site then, when you do meet your client, is it a little bit nerve-wracking? How did you prep for that? Did you go with one of your colleagues from Jacobs?
Yeah, it is quite nerve-wracking. So I was going out to site and I was actually the first person there.
So I got
there, I'm like, am I in the right place? I left early because I thought there was going to be loads of traffic, and it ended up being a very quiet morning. I got there about 15 minutes ahead of when we needed to be. And I parked up and I kind of went, I don't really know what to do. But then very luckily, another member of the team rocked up not long after me, and we went in, we got a cup of coffee, we got all settled, and got our laptops all synced up for the meeting, got the Wi-Fi going, got some teas on the go as well for everyone. And slowly people started to filter in, and it was just dead friendly, shaking hands with people I'd never met before, and people saying, oh, I'm so and so, and I'm like, oh yes, we've spoken on the phone, and putting a name to your face was really, really useful. So yeah, it was just a morning of meetings, progress meetings, kind of talking about where we were with the project, and then in the afternoon we went, let's go on a walkabout. Went around the site for about half an hour. Our hydrologists took us around and said, this is what we're doing here, we need to be aware of that, we need to be looking at this, all that kind of stuff. And then at the end of the day, we had a bit of a wrap-up meeting. We talked about what we were going to go away and do, what actions are we walking away with from this meeting, and we all headed home for the day. So
sounds like a good day.
Yeah,
it was a great day.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Rebecca. Sophie, I'm going to come on to you next. Similar question. Tell me a bit about your experiences so far with Jacobs.
So I probably agree with Rebecca, actually. Everyone's been super friendly, and it's been really easy to ask questions when you don't know anything or don't know something. You don't feel like you're bothering anyone. Like, everyone's really keen to help you, which is great, especially when you're learning so much right at the start. So in my job, I usually do a bit of everything as well, actually. So each day is really different. Like, each project's different in its own way. Each project requires something different. So I use a lot of GIS. I did at the start, and now I've used some modeling software. I've used Track, which is this other multimodal transport planning software. And everyone's really keen to help you out, teach you how to use these stuff, because obviously the modeling software was a bit beyond me at the start, but feel like I've got to grips with it a little bit.
Well done.
And then you're just working with, so I'm in the Reading office, and I work with people in the Reading office as well, but sometimes I work with people from the London office, as they work quite closely together. So that's been good to meet new people, and similar office situation to Rebecca. We try and go in once or twice a week, and we usually have Monday and Tuesdays as our days. So everyone can come in at the same time. It's nice to sit with your team and have a chat. Yeah. And there's a little games room they've put in now. I won't big up too much so people don't expect too much. But yeah, they've got a few things in there. So yeah, they're keen to have us back, which is nice. And it's,
That's
nice to see everyone in person.
Team spirit, which is good. Yeah. And it's a good reflection of the organisation as well. If you're all getting on, you can support one another. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Uma, I'm going to come to you. Same question. What's your life been like so far since you've joined Jacobs?
Varied, I think, in one word. I totally agree with what Rebecca and Sophie have mentioned already, about everyone just being really friendly, really welcoming. So basically, I'm based out of the Newcastle office. Okay. And actually, one thing is we don't have a games room like Sophie's team.
I knew there was going to be some jealousy there.
That's going to be on the to-do list to speak to the manager after I get on this off this call. But yeah, it's every week is really different, and I think that's a key theme of what it's like at Jacobs. Is they offer you the flexibility to kind of do what you think's best for your own sort of role.
Yeah.
So for example, for me, like a month ago, it was mainly like document work. It was mainly working from home, just bashing out documents, just trying to 100% just focus and get that out. Whereas the last couple of weeks have been totally different. So the last couple of weeks we've had the client come down to our office from Torness Power Station, so from EDF. And the client's been here. We've been doing like a factory acceptance test. So we've been showing them what we've been working on, what we've developed for them. So they've been here, just kind of witnessing that, making sure it's up to their specifications. So because of that, I've been in the office 5 days a week the last couple of weeks. In fact, I did like a Saturday as well a couple of weeks ago, just to try and get all that finished. So I think that's a key theme of what it's like at Jacobs, is just you're kind of trusted to do what's best for you, in terms of no one forces you to come into the office 5 days a week. It's like, if you think 5 days you need for working on documents from home, you can do that. If you think 5-6 days you need to come into the office to get things done, you can do that too.
Oh, brilliant. And so that, you're guessing you're obviously in the office now. It looks a bit quiet where you are. Just having a bit of a nosy around.
Yeah. Oh no, this is just my home. I just live in a house. No, I'm kidding. But not too many people are coming in yet. I think especially because we've just come out of the Plan B restrictions or something or another. So we're slowly starting to see people come back in. Plus we don't have fiber optic broadband in the office yet. So we're planning to get that installed next week. So I think once we've got that installed, I think more people are planning to come in at that point, just so we don't kind of overburden the network.
So that means we'll be on in meetings.
I was just going to say that. So
I don't know what's going on with my... Look at this. No,
it's like a little flower.
I've done my settings wrong, so I do apologise, everyone. I'm flashing every time I move. I don't know what I've done this time, so I do apologise. So go on, Carla, we can say something.
I was just going to say fibre optics first, and then games room priorities. For the Newcastle office.
I think games room first. Yeah.
So next I want to talk about, I'm now trying to play with my settings. It's probably just me. Has that worked? Oh, that's better. My hair now looks green, but that's fine. It keeps catching my eye. It's flashing. Next I want to talk about projects. So we'll keep in a circle. So Rebecca, I'll come back to you. If you can, could you tell us a bit about maybe not even the project you're working on now, if you can't divulge too much, but one of your favourite projects that you've worked on so far?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit what I do now. So I work in the clean water team, providing drinking water to the Midlands. Okay. So at the moment I'm working on several projects involving boreholes, which is basically where we pump groundwater up from a couple of 100 meters down underground. We purify it and we treat it so it's drinkable, and then we pump it into the network so people can get it in their homes and in their offices. Okay. And it's a huge project in terms of just keeping the network afloat and expanding the network, because the population grows and its demand changes as people move to work at home more than they do in the office. So it's all trying to cope with that and providing water where it's needed. And also some of these boreholes were drilled 100 years ago, so they need a bit of TLC, and some of them they're just going to go, you need some new ones because there's just not enough about. But I didn't really appreciate just how much work goes into the water network before I joined it. Like, it's just something you go to your tap and there's water.
Yes.
You don't have to think about it too much. But now that I've gotten a little bit of a peek at it, it's kind of blown my mind just how many people are involved in keeping the water network in the UK going, and just how complex it really is, and it's fascinating to be a part of it. And I've learned so much already.
We did a webinar a couple of weeks ago now, it was last weekend of Jan, wasn't it, Calla, with Severn Trent, and it was really similar conversation, and they start telling you these stats, this stuff, and you just go to tap, don't you? You fill up your bottle, you don't even think about it. But yeah, it's phenomenal work that you're all doing, so again, thank you for doing it, because it's something you take for granted.
It is really interesting, it's just it's not even something I did at university, which is why I was really scared going into it. I've never studied boreholes, I did water and pipes and stuff like that. I never really did it when I was underground, and they went, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry. And I walked in on the first day and they gave me a complete training course in it, and I was like, okay, this might be all right. I might know what I'm doing. But yeah.
And this really just does the point you've made there, and I know I repeat myself every week, but it's that classic example of, just because you've done a degree in a certain subject, don't think you just have to work in that sector. You've got to go into these organizations, and you're going to be thrown into situations, but you've got that network, haven't you, and that support around you that will carry. They won't let you fall. They won't let you get into a situation which you can't,
Exactly. It's a team as well. Like, Jacobs is one big team. If you succeed, the whole team succeeds. So it doesn't suit them to have you fall behind or not understand something. So everyone's really helpful when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, with the borehole stuff, it's so varied day to day. I'm sure all you guys would understand, like, just every project you go to, there's just every day is a new challenge, and like, you'll be asked to do something you've never done before. You go, God, I've never done that before. I didn't do it at university. What do I do? And they just go, oh, speak to so and so. They'll talk you through it, and they do. They sit down with you for half an hour, and you're like, yep, I know what I'm doing now. And you can go off and you can do it, and you can always come back to them if you've got more questions.
Yeah,
there's no
question. Exactly.
I do actually say that on all my presentations. I'm like, ask me questions. Anyway, Sophie, same question. Tell me a bit about your projects. I know you divulged slightly, and I was like, no, don't tell me too much, because I want to answer.
So I've worked on quite a few already. One main one was developing a county-wide model for East Sussex. So that involved lots of little tasks, and I was doing sustainable transport audits. So each borough has their own local cycling and walking infrastructure plans, and then where there's going to be new developments, you have to try and see how easy it would be to connect to those infrastructure already. So that was quite interesting, just looking at a different part of it. But the one I'm working on at the moment is the whole industry strategic plan for rail, and I'm working on the call for evidence side. So it's quite early stages where you sort of send out questions to stakeholders and people who would be involved in the process. And it's actually the first call for evidence Jacobs has done. So it's really exciting to be involved in like that new type of project that no one else has worked on either. So that's quite good.
Yeah, really good. Robin. Yeah. Everyone, Robin.
I'm going to change your name, Robin.
An absolute nightmare trying to get onto this meeting, but I'm here now.
You're here now. Bless you.
Welcome.
I did see you pop up earlier, and I was like, are you coming? I was just about to say, Robin, are you there? Then you disappeared again.
It just kept cutting out. I'm not sure what's wrong.
No, don't worry. Sophie, I will come back to you on projects, but Robin, do you want to just do a quick introduction, just when I can come to you next? So if you could just tell us all where you studied, what you're studying, what you did study, and what your job role is now.
Yep, so I studied at the University of St Andrews up in Scotland, and I did a joint degree in maths and physics, so all fun stuff. And I'm doing, sorry.
Yeah, go on. And your role now?
My role now is project controls, which is basically a right-hand man to the project manager. We look at all the details, we monitor the projects, make sure everything's going smoothly. So that's me.
Poor Robin, it's just like, Robin's here. Just asking questions.
I've never been so glad to see me.
We are really glad to see you.
Well, you were on my list, love, and I was like, where is she?
I know, I was trying. I'm sorry.
She's here now. No, you're here now, which is the most important thing. But shall we let Robin have a breath and we'll ask Umar about the projects, then go back to Robin, because it's just like the oracle's just arrived.
Dove, do you want to carry on with what you said about projects?
Me?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's just really interesting and really nice to be involved in like something that's new for everyone. You're not just put on some small projects. You're really involved in like the big ones, the ones that, you know, everyone else is really excited to be on as well. So that's really good. And it's good to like do something different as well. So each project is really varied and, you know, you really pick up some new skills really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the project that you're working on now, tell us a bit about how it works. Are you, again, the split between on-site, off-site? How does it work with the current project?
So I don't really go on-site in my role because all the information you need is, well, Google Maps has replaced a lot of site visits, I think. So you don't have to do that anymore. But yeah, you do talk to, I think at my level, you don't really talk to clients as much, but as you get more senior, you're a bit more face-to-face with them. But I have, you know, been involved in some county council sort of meetings, which has been interesting. I don't really say much, but I'm there. But yeah, yeah, it's been really good.
Fantastic, good stuff. Well, thanks, Surf. Got to come back to you, Umar, about your projects and what you've worked on so far.
Yeah. So I totally agree with Sophie and how like kind of varied all the projects are that you can work on. In fact, we've already had a bit of a flavor of that, right, from what Rebecca's described and what Sophie's described. And mine are even different to that. So basically, I'm an EC&I engineer. So that's electrical control and instrumentation. And I work in generation services. That's my team. So our role is mainly supporting EDF with their current fleet of nuclear power plants that they run in the UK. So a couple of the projects that I've worked on. So actually there's two that I'm working on now, and they give you a good flavor of the different kinds of things you can get involved in. So the first one is Sizewell B power station. So they're looking at installing some alarms on site. So as part of that, they've asked Jacobs to look into, so what are some of the options for alarms? So they're looking at like temperature alarms, that kind of thing. So if, you know, if it gets too hot in a room or something, then the alarm gets triggered. So yeah, so I'm down as the task engineer for that project. So that means that, so for example, that meant I had to go down to Sizewell B and, you know, doing like site surveys, finding out, you know, what kind of infrastructure do they have currently, what kind of alarms do they have currently, what capacity do they have for adding additional alarms, and then kind of coming away with that knowledge back to the office and sort of, you know, doing a bit of research, you know, what kind of alarms are available, bouncing ideas off with the engineers. And finally, I put all that together into the form of what we call an optioneering report, which I then sent back to EDF. We had a optioneering workshop. So it was me, like one of the senior engineers from Jacobs and a bunch of guys from like EDF. And we all just basically sat and discussed some of the options that I'd presented. And from that, then EDF basically decides which one they prefer. And then we go and we make what's known as a requirement specification, where we drill down and say, okay, this is the alarm you've chosen. What exactly are your requirements? And once again, I'll be the task engineer on that too. So I'll be taking that forward next. So that's a very like a document kind of based one. You know, it's a lot of so I still had a bit of you know, site experience, but it's also things like putting together the report. But then on the other side of things, another project I'm working on is for Torness Power Station. Now, this is a hard one to explain, but basically the way that they normally like handle fuel at Torness Power Station is they're normally pressurized when they do that. They're what's known as the fueling machine. It's basically imagine like, you know, like at the arcade, you can go and you can grab like teddy bears.
Oh yeah.
That machine with the claws and it grabs like teddy bears. It's basically the same thing. You have like a claw that comes down, latches onto like fuel picks it up, moves it, and puts it into like the reactor. So that's basically how it works on like the nuclear power plant, and we call that the fueling machine. So normally that's pressurized when it picks up and handles fuel, but for a number of reasons they're not able to do that operation pressurized at the moment. So they're having to look at how we can do it depressurized. So basically there's a lot of what we call interlocks, and those are like security features that prevent you from doing operations that could be dangerous or like hazardous. So we've got a simulator in our office. So what we've been doing is basically simulating how we would run that operation depressurized, and then once we've shown that we can do it safely, we call in EDF and they're witnesses running this in our simulator. So say, okay, these are the steps that you'd have to follow to be able to safely, refuel the reactor whilst depressurized. So that kind of project, for example, so that's a lot of being a lot more hands-on, working with equipment, working with PLCs, and just kind of running the simulator more directly. So there's not so much paperwork with that kind of thing. So yeah, you get basically like the two types of projects. Some are more document-based, some are more kind of hands-on based. And I've had a good flavor of the two types. Even though I've only been here I think it's been 6 months now, and that's all just in 6 months.
I know. I think listening to you sound like you've been there for years with all this experience.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Sorry, I dragged on a bit there, but it's
it's fascinating.
It's just because you get really technical and really hands-on, and that's what I've really enjoyed these last 6 months.
You just come across how passionate you are as well, with everything that you've been doing. So that's really great to hear.
Thank you.
And I was thinking of Ferry Bridge,
I was thinking that. Yeah. So there was we went to, Jess just said Ferry Bridge, and there's a part of Ferry Bridge, the power station, where it's like waste materials, and there was this big claw. We weren't allowed to have a go, I mean, Jess bless us, but there was this it was like a station as people sat upstairs, and there's this big claw that comes out and picks up all this waste and puts it in this generator. Jess really wanted to have a go, didn't you? And this man with all these gadgets going.
It looks like the perfect gaming seat.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But it was just like the arcade with that teddy bear.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the best analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I understood that bit. I was like, yeah, I know what that is.
I was like, you literally have the best job. That looks so much fun. Anyway, Robin, come back to you. So, projects. If you could just tell us all a bit about the projects that you've been working on so far since you have joined Jacobs.
Yeah, so I've been lucky to be able to move around a couple of them so far, but I started on, and I'm still on DSTL, which is Defence Science and Technology Labs. So it's for the MOD, and we're just doing some infrastructure work for them. The clients love us, so they've been awarding us loads of new work. So that's a growing framework. So lots to get involved in. And I started, so that was half of my time, and my other half was a bit in sales to begin with. So I was looking at new opportunities. We were doing a lot of stuff out in Saudi Arabia and in Belgium and in Slovakia, and the Slovakia one I'm not working on it anymore, but we won it, so it was great. Wow. So we're working on air bases out there, and I've just started getting involved in a framework called ECAM, which is it's in infrastructure and design, and we're doing it in different air bases around the UK. So that's Lakenheath and Fairford, Waddington, all of those. So we're getting involved in them, but as my role, it's more looking at finances and the forecasting and scheduling. So it's delving into lots of different projects within frameworks and making sure they're all running smoothly, which is great because I've got to meet loads of different people, and it's exciting being able to be involved in lots of different projects and not get stuck in just one.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity for me to grow in my experiences and learn from all of these.
Travel by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Yep. So I've had a trip out to Lakenheath to see what we were doing out there, and hopefully opportunity to go see the labs down in DSTL soon as well. We've been invited. It's been a bit iffy with COVID, but they've invited us down, so we're hoping to get down there. Yeah,
it is. I have been. It is amazing down there. It's it's very secret. So yeah, definitely, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Just make sure you leave everything at security, because I went through my laptop and the security was like, no, Carla, not your laptop. I was like, computers definitely says no. So Robin, I'm just thinking from your point of view, the sales, scary word is sales, isn't it? So are you actually presenting to clients, selling to clients? How did you prepare for all those presentations? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so my role in terms of sales was more looking at opportunities that were out there and going in, looking at the data of where we're putting our work towards, where we're putting our efforts, and looking at opportunities outside of what we're already involved in. So I was less on the client interaction side and more looking at the data and the numbers behind it. But at the minute, I'm working on a workshop to get involved in some work with the MOD and submarines in dismantling. So we're looking into that, and what goes into that is workshops. So we're doing a series of workshops to look at possible solutions, identify the problem, and get to where we want to go and whether it's worth putting more effort and money towards going to the client with our ideas. And obviously there's lots of risks to look at. So yeah, there's a lot going on in sales.
It seems like your role is very based within the defence sector. Is that right to say?
Yes, sorry, I didn't say it yet. So I'm in defence and security.
Yeah, super. So are you going to stay within that area of Jacobs, or do you have the intention to move out and experience different areas of the business in that way, or are you quite happy with where you are?
So at the minute, I'm happy with where I am. It's like a lot of exciting stuff. I've definitely spoken to others that are outside of defence and security, and they're all enjoying it as well. So I'm keen to maybe get some experience there after I feel like I've got enough out of this part of the business.
I must say, you look very happy, Robin. You haven't stopped smiling since you joined the webinar. So Jacobs must be doing something right.
It's going well so far.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. Shall we move on to training and development, Jessica?
Yeah, sounds like fun.
So obviously from the students' point of view, people watching love to hear about the training and development and the opportunities that are open there at Jacobs. So Rebecca, you mentioned about the induction. There was a lot of training and development opportunities that were mentioned there. But what specifically at Jacobs, training-wise, have you been offered that you've really taken a lot away from?
So for my role, there's a lot of kind of required training that's like accredited, so it's like third-party training, and it's all to get certification so you can like go out on site, and it's in addition to like your degree already. So there's things like water hygiene courses that you need to do before you can go to your clean water site, because you need to know what not to do to contaminate anything basically. And there's loads of little things, and very quickly off the bat when I started, my boss was kind of like, right, we need to get you enrolled on this and this so that we can get you out on site as quickly as possible. So within about a week or two, I was already doing those kind of things. And sometimes you don't really get to do those kind of things till you have to go to site. So you could be a couple of months in, and then your boss is going, oh, can you go to site next week? Do you have this organised? You go, oh, I haven't done that yet. No, oh, okay, right. And then you've got to go back and sort it all up. My boss is really proactive in getting that all out of the way, and I don't have to do it now for another 3 years. But it was all kind of an introduction into water infrastructure and how the network really works. You know, how do you get water out of the ground and then treat it and then get it out into general circulation? Like, how does it end up from the ground into the pipes underneath the road and stuff? How does it all move about really? And the kind of logistics behind that I found really, really interesting. So I'd like to maybe look more into that kind of stuff rather than just looking at water when it's groundwater. I'd like to look at it more when it's in the network, as we say. So hopefully maybe in the next few months stuff will open up with that, and I can kind of move over into that a bit more. But I'm really happy where I am right now. But that kind of training has kind of opened up some new avenues for me, shall we say.
Yeah, so I suppose the training that you've just had then has opened up areas that you might not have known existed before, and you're just thinking, oh right, okay, so this is now that I want to find out more about.
Exactly. So yeah, some of it was Jacob's own training on their own kind of E3 platform, which I'm sure Dan can tell you all about, which is kind of like in-house training courses. And it's also kind of combined with LinkedIn courses, so you can like sign up to LinkedIn courses through it. It's really, really, really useful. So some of that was all on there, and then of course some third-party stuff. But I don't think there's anything I could pick out that was just amazing beyond all else. It was all super useful and kind of just really gave me a good understanding of what I was walking into as a role. Because you can get like given a job description, but until you really start kind of doing the job, you don't really know what you're getting into. So yeah, as far as kind of seeing the network as a whole, it was really useful rather than just seeing it from my job role, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it makes your job role easier though, doesn't it, as well, if you see the whole thing as as the whole thing, and then you think, right, okay, this is my focus area. And just with you, Rebecca, then, so your future then, what, I know you said that you're really happy with where you are at the moment, but what future plans have you in place?
Okay, so my goal is to stay with my current team for about maybe another 6 months to a year, because we're moving into quite an exciting phase where a lot of our projects that are in design are starting to go into construction now. Brilliant. So that's quite an exciting phase to be involved in. And most of them are only about a year long construction wise. So they'll start to be tailing off in about a year's time, closing down and into operation. So they won't need us. And I'm, all being well, they'll all be in construction with no delays. And I can move on to something within water still, hopefully. I'm hoping to kind of go down an environmental route. Though defence sounds really interesting.
Everybody's going to be jealous of everybody else's roles now. How do you do that?
Really heard about nuclear as well. I'm just kind of like, oh God, that sounds really good. I want to do that. But yeah, I really want to try out environmental. It's something I really enjoyed at university. Yeah. So I'm going to try and get a bit more involved in the environmental side of things, see what I can do there.
Perfect. Well, best luck for the future, Rebecca. Thank you for that. Sophie, so training, what kind of training have you been involved in, and then your future plans?
So as Rebecca said, you get a lot of induction training when you first join. They take you through all the different parts of the business, like E3 learning, sort of a brief introduction to the sales process, all the networks that are involved. So you feel like you really learn all the aspects of the company. For transport planning, I wouldn't say we had specific courses like Rebecca did, maybe, but it was more on the job learning, which was good because I feel like there wasn't like a general approach to each task because it was kind of different for each project. So it's more of learning on the job. But yeah, it was good. It was it gives you like a nice flavor of everything, and like they did have these 2 training talks about transport modeling and transport planning, so that kind of introduced you to the theory behind transport planning as well. So that was quite useful, just giving you a bit of background about your job and what type of things you could be doing. One of the actual training things, I don't know if it would be classed as training, but they do a Q&A with the leaders in Jacobs. So I got to meet the guy who was in charge of the transport planning in the southeast, and it's nice to just get to know people. He told us about his career path, and you just get to know them as a person. They're not just some elusive authority figure. You actually know them, and he actually, because he's in charge of my office as well, he comes to our team meetings sometimes, and he came to our Christmas meal, so it really feels like like a big team. And we're all involved together, so that's good. In the future, I'll probably stay with my team until the end of the graduate program, which is in about 18 months. And then I've really enjoyed looking at active travel, sort of encouraging walking and cycling, multimodal use of transport. So I might try and see if I can move into that a bit more. They've been really helpful in saying, if you just want to try this, just let us know and we'll find someone who can help you with that. So, it's been really good and everyone's been really helpful with it.
Sounds like you've got a great future ahead. Thank you very much, Sophie. Uma?
So my experience, I would say, in terms of learning and development has been quite similar to Sophie's. So where a lot of it has been, kind of on the job sort of learning. So yeah, I remember like my first day, I was straight in, with the equipment, that simulator that I mentioned before for the, the fueling machine. Day one, I was on that, I had no idea what was going on, but I was, I had obviously like a senior engineer with me as well, kind of taking me through it. So yeah, it can be quite a steep learning curve to begin with, but it's definitely really interesting. But on top of that, we also have like a a more formal sort of training program, and that's known as the Graduate Development Program. So we call it like the GDP, and so that's like a 2-year program. And as part of that, we have like regular like training on like the sales process, and so more sort of formal training as well. So I think you get a good blend of sort of on the job learning versus like formal sort of like courses, that kind of thing. Also I wanted to quickly mention was that it's not all just like technical training. You also get plenty of training on like other things. So Rebecca already mentioned the LinkedIn Learning. So we've got like an account with that, so you can access some of those courses. And also things like becoming a mental health champion. So that's something that I'm interested in doing, and if you put your name forward for that, the company pays and sends you on a training course to learn more about that kind of thing too. So it's not all just like 100% like technical training all the time. There's more like the soft skills and things like that too, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think Jacobs just wants to make you really well-rounded people, doesn't it? So you can get involved in the bits of everything. And your
Definitely.
future then, what is your grand plan?
So I don't know if I'd call it a grand like plan exactly. Some a bit of an idea at the moment. But so at the moment I'm thinking so the simulator that I've mentioned, that's based on a platform that we call the RAPAC. It's meant to be like an acronym for something, but the exact like word like escapes me. But basically this RAPAC platform, EDF is going to be relying on that for the next sort of 10 to 15 years. So my plan really is to learn as much as I can about that and specialize in that, so that in the future, especially when it comes to like decommissioning and things like that, EDF is going to need specialists in that area. And my plan is to be one of those people who will have the skills that will be in demand in sort of 10 to 15 years.
Wow, that is such a fantastic thing to look forward to. So you've been involved in the conception and all the way through to the end, when you are going to be that expert, you're going to be that specialist, and people are going to be coming to you and you can be saying, 15 years ago I was building that.
yeah, I know. It's crazy when you meet people like that, like in the office, there's people who like actually built it, and when you meet people like that, it really blows your mind.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. And Robin, I know you mentioned a bit about your future plans, but have you had any specific training or anything else that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, so just like everyone else, we had the induction just a couple of weeks, getting us into the business and all these courses, and it was a great way to get an idea of Jacobs values, what Jacobs stands for, and the basics you need to know. In terms of other training, last week actually I was on a course it's called P6, a scheduling tool. So it was a lot of project controllers. You can go down different routes, cost, scheduling. So this was a look into how that scheduling side of things works. And it was a 3-day course. It was supposed to be in person, but unfortunately we did it online instead. But I just got one of the other graduates actually who was in the Bristol office with me, and we just got our room and we did it together, and it was really useful. I've got that certificate now to be used, so if they want to give me access to the P6 software, then I can use it on future projects, and it's going to be really helpful. In terms of other training, there's opportunities to go into the APM course for me, which is the Association of Project Managers. So the company's looking at getting me access to that, and that'd be a really good qualification to work towards, and give me a good idea of how, because project controllers and project managers work really closely together. It's a good one to have just to get an idea of how a project is run and everything you need to do. So there's lots of opportunity for training.
Oh, it sounds absolutely amazing. Dan, can I have a job? Dan, I'm coming back to you. Any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the people attending the webinar?
No, like I said, I think the guys have covered it all, to be honest.
I knew you were going to turn around and say
much better job than I covered. It was either me waffle 58 minutes or listen to this guy.
And you've chosen well, Dan. They've been absolutely amazing.
What can I say?
Really.
And then this is the kind of best example of what happens at Jacobs. You've got very different qualifications, doing very different roles, giving you a full flavour of, like I said earlier, we do everything from clean water right the way through to nuclear power and everything in between. So you've seen that in first hand, really. So yeah, apply now.
We've got the first class experience, and like Dan said, the perfect ending comment, apply now. So don't forget, apply graduate opportunities are currently live, but there are some more to open up in the next couple of weeks. Degree apprenticeships opening in March, and summer placements also opening in March as well. And don't forget, this webinar will be live on the Jacobs Hub as of tomorrow, and we'll break down the profiles of these amazing graduates, which will be on the Jacobs Hub, so you can go and have a look at those. But yeah, so the messages: apply, follow. They've got some fantastic stories. You can be involved in all of these projects in the future. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been brilliant. Another fantastic webinar. Me and Jess are not back next week, but the week after we'll be joined by financial services company Admiral. So we'll hope to see you then. But for now, take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.